Hello, everybody, and welcome to CONSERVATISH, episode 263. My name is Peter Edgar Feliciano. Wherever you are listening, make sure you subscribe, share, rate, and review, or you're racist. And you can find me on Instagram at Peter_Feliciano. You can find me on Twitter at Rule62Peter. And I'm going to mostly be posting that. I am going to post it on YouTube because blah, blah, blah. But I'm going to be putting it a lot more frequently on Rumble because they don't have as deep a shadow ban on me. So, yes, thank you very much, everybody, for watching CONSERVATISH. Ladies and gentlemen, the wonderful Forest Mommy is here. Yay!
Hi.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me.
I know I'm great, aren't I?
You are wonderful.
I know I'm humble too. I'm super fucking humble.
The thing I like best about you is how humble you are.
That's right. I used to on my music cards, because I do music too. I used to have on my card it said, "I'm the humblest person you know." Jessica Fenske, you are running for office, and obviously you're also a cultural mover and shaker. You have streams and say all kinds of foul things, and you try to move the movement, and obviously that's a nebulous concept, the movement forward. But I was introduced to you through Ashley, who's been on my show. Shout out to High Strangeness is her stream. Apparently, I'm going to go on. I don't know a lot about aliens. She apparently talks a lot about aliens. So, although it kind of looked like one. But I'm gonna. I was interested, especially in anybody who's obviously pushing the boundaries. You're running for office in Colorado, and of course, even though you just told me the name of the city 2 seconds ago, I already forgot it.
It's Arvada, Arvada, Colorado. I'm running for District 4, and I never ever wanted to do it, and I'm kicking myself in the pants for doing it, but we're here. We're moving forward, so that's that.
Right. A couple of weeks ago, I had I told you I had a libertarian campaign strategist on, who's run for office in Massachusetts. She ran for governor. She ran for Senate in the last 20-something years. And one of the things we talked about, there's a lot of libertarian or obviously labels or whatever, but there's a lot of anarchist people who have started to follow me because I'm shooting it everywhere, right? I'm calling out Fed boys and all that fun stuff. But the pressure seems to be this black-pilled area of no one should ever run for office ever, right? That even voting at all is super just playing into the state's game and things like that. And one of the things that she and I talked about, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. One of the things she and I talked about is this idea of okay, but I can get chickens and guns and prep and do all the stuff I'm doing while also maneuvering within the state if I can, you know what I mean? It's just a binary option. So what are your thoughts on that? And what was your journey getting into it?
Well, I 100% agree. I believe there's a million different strategies we all can be working on, and you can work on multiple strategies, getting the chickens, prepping. And if you don't believe in the political process, you do something else. You're building a whatever. There's so many different things. And I technically don't believe in the political process, but it's here for us to use. And we've had the Libertarian Party as kind of like a back door into their system, So I'm going to put some energy towards it, whether it works or not. So. And the journey, I would say, the whole thing with Forest Mommy and stuff started during COVID and just saying what I needed to say about it all. And surprisingly, it attracted a lot of great people. And then Twitter, I just feel like Twitter's magic. And I just connected with, because, I lost my friends. So I connected with this whole new world, got more involved with the LP out here, blah, blah, blah. And then, this year in March, well, there was a lot of catalysts that happened this year just with politically. I started going, I'm technically a Mises Caucus state organizer, which people think that's a bad thing, but it's I just like getting people together, man. I don't know. It's not I'm not as strict about these labels as other people are, I think. So I got more involved, started going to more county affiliate meetings and meeting more, getting people I've met and seen before, but just, I don't know, there's all this energy built. And then our campaigns director was so there's another gentleman, another libertarian running in a different district in Arvada as well. So he was running anyways. We're very different people. He's not online at all. But so he was running and I was like, I should see if my district's running just to see, right? And then I'm like, oh, it is. And then I kind of like floated the idea, and then our campaign director's like, you'll be first to file right now, and it looks like you could probably win, like just with with who no one had filed yet, blah blah blah. So I was like, all right, I'll do it. I felt guilty because I have a great life. I've done all this back end work with building the online stuff, so it's like I had to do it. I felt guilty not doing it. So that's my journey into how I actually filed for office, to run for office.
Right. So where along after filing, how many minutes before they told you who actually shot JFK? Like, do they bring you in a back room, or is it no? Yeah, it's I like this idea. So many people I experience or have a similar experience where COVID woke me up, right? Or COVID made me start talking at least, or whatever the thing it is. And I certainly, when I started Conservatish in 2018, now sure, I lost a couple of acquaintances. Sure. One couple was a fucking couple who I even performed at their wedding. And yet they still were like, it's not okay for you to have that person on your show. So I lost a few acquaintances, but my network has grown huge. Well, compared to what it was, my following and whatever. So the idea that it's like, don't those say right now I have 21.6 thousand followers on my Instagram. Don't those people vote? Like, are we just supposed to act like they, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I think the system prefers us feeling hopeless. I think the system prefers us feeling inadequate and impotent, and we can't do anything about it. No, they're going to win anyway, and all black pill. They like it when we're angry. You know what I mean? So to move aside and say, you know what, here's this tool. I'm going to use it in spite of them saying, don't look behind the curtain. I'm going to fucking look behind the curtain. It's a big deal. So thank you for doing what you're doing.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, you joke about the JFK thing, but 12 hours after I filed, I got doxxed by a corporate news journalist. I don't know if you knew that story. So, yeah.
Well, can you repeat that? You said 12 hours what?
12 after I filed to run. I posted something on my Twitter, and then 12 hours, or like the next morning, a local news journalist who doesn't like me because of Twitter, he doxed me. He like posted the affidavit with nothing redacted, and he made this whole long post that said like, if you live in the city of Arvada, you should know this anti-vaxxer. And then he said the best thing. He goes, she hates the government and wants to be in government. But then it got shared 2 million times, blah, blah, blah. And so that's like the last, like, that's what happened that really boosted my numbers, is that he like totally boosted me, even though he was trying to like scare me. And then he deleted it and then did this stupid apology. And then there's been other hit pieces and stuff too, but it really blew up. So I was like, okay, I guess they really do not want people like us in there. So
they really don't. They really don't. And it's easy to go like, oh, the government wouldn't do that, or the system wouldn't do that. Absolutely they would. Absolutely they would. Google Ruby Ridge, everybody. Google Ruby Ridge. Google Waco. I live not far from it. Okay. And it is people, right? This person. Quick question on that journalist. White person, right?
Well, he has a Spanish last name, but he's very white. He's very white.
I like using identity politics to try to kill identity politics. I mean, everywhere. I even have, in fact, I'm wearing it right now. What does it say? Rage against boring white liberals.
Yes.
You can buy that at peterfeliciano.com.
That definitely describes him. He was definitely a boring white. All the people at this certain news station are these white boys who are like nuts like that. So yeah.
And I know you're running for office, but none of them can fuck. Like none of them are fun. None of them are like good at dancing, or like they're not in current day, everybody. You can't be a fun person. Like if your entire political spectrum, your entire political movement is based on censorship, which is what? Is that a movement? Is that a progressive energy, everybody, or is that a stagnant energy? Right? Is that somebody who's loose and can say jokes, or is that somebody who needs to be guarded? Right? You're creating this cocoon for safety, but you're really stopping yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they can't handle fun. They're like the people at the lunchroom, which I wasn't cool growing up, right? But these are the people in the lunchroom who are mad that people like aren't like, you know what I mean? And they're writing lists And they're like, I'm gonna, you know, they're just, that's the personality and it's journalists now, and you can't have fun, and you can't, I mean, they all work for Pfizer anyway, so like it's just, you know.
Right. So most of them will probably most of them will probably have a stroke or a heart attack soon anyway. So there's I'm kidding, everybody. I just so okay, so in through that process, let's back it up a little bit. Forest Mommy, you grabbed that moniker in 2020 during the pandemic?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, I think
Were
like
you say it again?
May 2020-ish, yeah.
And before the pandemic, what was your outlook? Was it crunchy, or would you consider yourself crunchy now?
I definitely didn't consider myself conservative before, but I knew I mean, I was kind of red pilled, and I just have had a different kind of life where I've been like on my own. No one's really I've lived by my own rules. So I've always been like, you know, screw the government, but I didn't pay enough attention to politics and stuff. So, but, yeah, now I'm like, it's so funny. Some things that come out of my mouth, I'm like, really? But it's not. Everyone says like, oh, conservative. I'm like, okay, guess what? I don't have kids and stuff, but if I'd had kids, I'd want a mom and a dad. And if that makes me, if I want them to have, if that makes me a crazy conservative, even though I'm not doing that, and I would never force it on other people, you know. So, yeah, that's why I like the conservatish. It's kind of, I feel like that's how most people would roll, anyways. So,
Yep. The only that's the so a little bit of my backstory. I spent the majority of the pandemic in Manhattan. And prior to that, yes. And then prior to that, I was in San Francisco.
wow.
So I've gotten the worst of the worst. And I also once, I actually, now that I think of it, I did live in Portland for a few years back in 2008, 2010. So I kind of know, I can diagnose it pretty easily. And I know the psychology behind that type of person. It's not that they disagree with us, but they have to disagree, or they have to agree with us quietly, if they agree at all. And they're surrounded by that pressure. Again, similar to what we were talking about a second ago. We're surrounded by that pressure, and that pressure is subconscious, and it tells me I have to be quiet. I have to slunk my shoulders. I have to defer to a woman in the workplace, and I have to not make this joke, and I have to, and I have to, and I have to, and I have to. When I got to Austin, no one gives a fuck about anybody in Austin. Like, they don't. I know it gets a bad rap for being blue. No one, like, it's everybody's kind of anonymous. Like, you do your own thing. I'm gonna go over here. You know what I mean? There are signs up in some places that say, hey, don't bring your gun in here, whatever. But you can't dehumanize the other side as easily in Austin because it's a mix, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm my thing is like, I'm a champion for, like, I want to talk. I want to listen. I want to hear. I want to explore. And when I find stuff that I disagree with, there's a lot of people on the right who I piss off as well. Just, let me have one. I made some meme a few weeks ago that was like, that handshake, that meme with the handshake, the drawn hands or whatever. It's Arnold Schwarzenegger and what's his face. And then on one side, it said 20% of the right. And on the left, it said 90% of the left. And in between, where they're coming together, is being too scared and intellectually lazy to realize that LGBT agenda is not most gay people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yet people, sometimes conservatives who follow me because I have, they're like patriots or whatever the fuck, will come in and be like, actually, gay people are going to hell. I'm like, bro, just stop. Would just stop. Like, I'm not saying, like, if they're adults, bro, calm down. Do you really... The government is the problem. It doesn't matter if they have an R next to their name or a D next to their name. I would have been against the Christian conservatives who were bulldozing Ice-T records in 1992, right? It's that same energy. Any part of that government control, whatever, that's the problem,
Yeah, and they kind of they're pushing they want to keep pushing that pendulum so people react like that. Like, I'm sure you've seen over the last little bit with, oh, well, gay marriage was a slippery slope to drag queen story hours. It's like, no. First of all, you want to say what the slippery slope was. Legal marriage was created by the government. So any legal marriage is a slippery slope from the government's action, right? Like, so that I made a joke too. I'm like, straight marriage was the slippery slope to gay marriage, which means that's the slippery slope to drag queens. It's all connected. But then half of it too is a lot of people just don't know a lot of normal people that are gay, or what, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of people just they don't know. Like I remember even before COVID, I would the gay club out here was like my favorite place to go dance. I hooked up eventually with this huge group of like older trans people back then who were, it wasn't all what was going on now. You know, they weren't pushy. There were a lot of them like were cross dressers all their lives, and some of them are doing it now. They're older. The kids are out of the house. They're like whatever now, right? So
Right.
it was such a normal, and I went and got to know them and stuff. So that's when all this stuff's happening. I'm like, no, we can't even, it's not even just the trans people. It's only some of these people, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So that's part of the problem is even with the internet, even with being able to see every perspective and talk to every kind of person, people choose not to. They choose to shut down right away and say that, oh no. And it's like, okay, keep thinking that, I guess. I don't know how to change people's minds on that. So
Right. An element of it is I've been trying to work on this recently is like that I can't change motherfuckers. It's
yeah.
hard, dude. It's hard, especially when I'm so good at it. It's hard. You know, I used to be, I make a joke on the show, but I used to be the white liberal girl whisperer, right? Where like every day, because I lived in New York and the Bay. So it was like every girl I dated was essentially a liberal. And I would like, you know, turn them over to the dark side or whatever. But I had to give that up because it's like I'm done trying to change motherfuckers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm waiting for my, you know, my ride or die hippie slash gun toting, homesteading, homeschooling.
You'd like more people turning that way, so it's good,
Right,
hopefully.
right. So you were always kind of conservative, or
I wasn't always conservative necessarily, but I innately believed in Austrian economics and like you can't like you have to work and things like
right?
that. I was on my own young, so I learned like, oh, you have to work this many hours to pay this many bills, or you know what I mean. So
Right.
um
When did
I was on my own. So I wasn't like I'm the older millennial, right? And the whole feminism stuff was pushing the whole strong independent woman stuff.
sure?
So I moved out on my own, but it wasn't really necessarily that. And I was on my own for like 10 years. And then the minute the man was like, you don't have to work. And I'm not even a mother. And he's still like, you don't have to work. And I was like, God, thank God. Like, I'm totally down with that. Obviously, the companionship where it's a give and take, but and it allows me now to do the things in my life I'm doing. So, yeah, I've lived my life in a lot of different ways. I went from strong independent woman to strong dependent woman.
Yeah, different strengths, different strengths. You
Yeah.
know, and when most of the dudes I talk to, and I've seen it happen in my own life as well as others. I remember I learned this lesson. I was 21, and I was dating this 34-year-old. It's another
Nice.
story. Yeah, the older I got, the younger they got. And she also had some how much do I want to say? Sure. This isn't, yeah, no one knows who the fuck she is anyway. I haven't talked to her ass in years. But she had an inheritance. And so she also had some mental health issues, I would say. And I didn't really clue in on that. I'm fucking 21. What am I saying? You know, I'm not emotionally open. And therefore she didn't like it when I would go out to work. So she essentially supported us. Right. And I didn't know that that's not good for either one of us. Right.
Right.
And then I found that out because we hated each other. If we went more than 2 days without a fucking blow up, it was a goddamn miracle. Right. So I found that out. But the women I know who are emotionally open, who are aware of themselves, are like, you know, okay, yeah, you can support you. You can be a boss bitch. Do you want to? Do you want to? It's the question we never ask. Do you want to? And if you get them alone and you get them off of social media and no other girls are looking, she's going to say no most of the time. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, and I'm like, I even in my own life, I would see like, I have two sisters who are way older than me, and I always laugh because my mother didn't work raising them, but then she did go back to work raising me. So we had two different moms, kind of, you know, and I think they went off and they were dependent right away and had kids and all that stuff, right? And then I would be on my own paying my rent, way younger than them, and like think I was better than them and stuff, you know. And then I was like, what an idiot! I was such an idiot thinking that, right? But
Right.
yeah, so it's like you do see that, and it's okay to let people do what they want or figure it out. It's just when we saw the whole push with, you know, forcing people to college, and the college tells everybody what to do and how to live and all that stuff, and then the society and the pressures. People just got to learn to like they can do what they want to do without like having to please other people or whatever. Like figure out what you want and do it.
which is a fundamental. I mean, I guess obviously we don't want to harp too long on the labels. I agree with that, but which is a fundamental principle of libertarianism. I don't think a lot of people understand kind of what that is. In your view, what do you feel like it kind of is roughly? Because I know libertarians hate the only thing that libertarians hate more than other libertarians is the government, but is also there's all these boxes, anarcho-capitalist and this and that and blah, 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 blah. But the bottom line is, in the way I see it, is just leave me the fuck alone. Just don't tell people what to do. You know, how do you kind of see it?
Yeah, I would say about that too. Don't hurt other people. Don't take their things. If you need help, ask or whatever, But yeah, it's just, and you can technically live your own life. You could be a Mennonite or whatever on one side, or you could be whatever on the other side. But as long as you don't think the government should ever force your culture or your life on other people, then that'd be libertarian. Because I've been trying to make that point too in this now that I have people's attention a little bit more. I'm like, they just constantly have the right and the left going after each other. But I'm like, that's not what you're scared of. What you're scared of is what you're scared the government's going to control everything and not let you get abortions, or you're scared the government's going to control everything and trans your kids. And I'm like, do you understand you're scared of this? You're scared of this forcing it on. If we can get rid of the force, then who cares? Who cares what they're doing over there, right? If they can't force it on you.
Right. That's an element. I mean, when I moved away from New York, and one of the many things I've kind of that's what I kind of feel about New York. If California wants us to secede, please, guys, please keep doing what you're doing. It's fine. Like, if y'all want to ruin your, in my opinion, ruin your state and continue to kill lots of people, go for it, kiddo. If that's your decision, go for it. It's the idea that, it's the idea, and we might see it because they might steal the election for Gavin Newsom if Gavin Newsom is the new one to replace Biden. Not that I'm
nothing would surprise me. So
nothing. But that's really the salient point. That's the most important point. How much pushback? Obviously, you're gonna get pushback with anti-vaxxer and racist. Blah. I even get, I've only had like 2 people actually call me a Nazi, and it was white boys, even though I'm fucking Puerto Rican. But whatever. Do they have Puerto Ricans in Colorado? I don't think they have Puerto Ricans in Colorado, right?
There's a few here and there, but yeah, we're a little bit further up from the hemisphere down there.
But you do know Puerto Ricans and Mexicans aren't the same thing. I'm just letting you know that. Okay.
And Cubans and Puerto Ricans aren't the same either, right?
We aren't? Well, we eat the same shit. But anyway, no, that's about it. What was I asking before I got sidetracked?
Pushback.
Oh, how much? What kind of pushback have you gotten? And has it? Because the way you said it just now was a really simple, easily digestible, and pretty middle of the road way to package your ideas. You know what I mean? So how has the pushback looked for you?
So yeah, the pushback was, weirdo online journalists saying what he said, them not liking how I drink. Oh, and all the pushback, let me tell you though, all the pushback has come from people on the left in the journalism and all that stuff. And I'll talk about the right too, because the right, there is no pushback. I don't know. I'll explain what happened in Colorado, but yeah, on the left. And then, so when I filled out my affidavit, it's a nonpartisan race, right? So, but I was just filling it out, and it had a spot for like your political party. I'm like, oh, just Colorado Libertarian Party. I just like wrote it in, right? And then later in the day, the lady's like, do you want that there? And I'm like, well, it won't show up on the ballot, right? And she's like, no. And I'm like, well, then who cares? Well, you want to know who cares is the newspaper and the people. They're like, oh my God, this is a nonpartisan race, and they put their thing. And I'm like, it's never been a nonpartisan race. It's always been right and left, people who are supported by the right and left out here, right? So they were left. So they made this huge deal that me and the other guy are libertarians, and we were just like, well, we just accidentally wrote it down. I don't know. So they're trying to make this huge deal about that. Some of the things, like I said, I want to get rid of the DEI and the DEI, taxpayer funded DEI, stuff like that. So the guy I'm running against was like, no, we need more inclusivity. And he's like a boring white man, right? So I'm like, I don't. Oh, and then there was a pledge. There was this pledge that you could sign that the city put out there. And it was like, I'll disavow people for this. It was like a fair campaign pledge. So I refused to sign it. the other guys. So they made a big deal about that too. But it was just Marxist kind of stuff where it was like, you have to sign it. And so I asked the city, I'm like, well, what if I find the other people who signed the pledge in like they've done something wrong? And she goes, well, nothing. It's just the court of public opinion. So I'm like, this was just a test. That was a total like test because they made a big deal about it in one of the articles.
So clarify what you're saying. All of the candidates had to sign a pledge that said,
it's like, this is the fair campaign pledge. And there's like this list of stuff that was basically like, if someone who supports me goes after someone else, I will disavow them. Like, that's the one. I just remember the word disavow. And I'm like, right away. I'm like, like that should never be anything. So yeah, I have a copy of it. I could send it to you, but it's like, or it's on my website. I have put it up on my website too, but it's like, I'm not signing this. Like I run on I am who I am. I do what I am. And like, if you have a problem with me, come to me. If I do something wrong, that's on me. I'm not going to sign a stupid pledge. So,
which by the way, just on a fucking super simple example, to this right before the election, I saw a beautiful clip the other day where Biden is saying into the camera, because someone else obviously wrote all of it, but Biden saying into the camera, this guy has never even once disavowed any white supremacist. And then it just goes clip after clip after clip after clip of Trump saying, I disavow. They're bad people. Screw that racist, blah, blah, blah. All this stuff. It didn't help.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. And I like to get into the psychology of it because this is the thing I think you and I learned, and a lot of us who have woken up, is that it's fun to bully people. It's fun on a human level. It's fucking fun. And if the left gets to do it and be a hero, wow. So I get to press my power on a motherfucker, and the government gets to support me, and I'm a moral. If I don't press this person, I'm a bad person. Great. What a wonderful, that's a great, yay. So, and that's the thing about abusive relationships is that the abuser will always move the goalpost.
Yeah,
they were
you
going
can't
to
win.
move the goalpost.
Never win. No matter what, no matter how much proof. We just had something with one of the caucuses, like no matter how much proof you push, they just will keep going, and they will just keep going. It's just like they're so insincere, and they're not good faith people at all. So it's just not even worth it. Just get out of here.
Right. And it seems like you probably learned that intellectual person-to-person lesson. You seem scrappy, is what I'm going to say. You seem like, yeah. Okay. I don't know how many fights there are in Colorado, but it seems like, that's ever. But do you feel like you had a time in your life where you weren't? Like what do you feel made you learn that lesson?
The scrappiness,
the not being bullied, the waking up in 2020, whatever you want to call it. I'm just interested in what that journey was.
I would say the first thing, which is partially why I moved out young, which I'm not saying bad about my family now. We have a great relationship now. But when I was young, I was the youngest by a lot. And there was some empty nest stuff going on. And my parents just acted really weird. And I was like, I'm not living under your rules. Like, I'd rather be broke and on my own. So I moved out, and they kind of were weird and harassing me at work because I wasn't living the life they wanted me to live. And I'm like, I ain't paying my own bills, So, and then just being very hurtful, just kind of what families were doing now during COVID. I was kind of ostracized and apostatized, So I think that really woke me up too, because then I was on my own completely. So there was no backup then once they were doing this. And so I think that, and then, the jobs I had to get, and I had to survive, and I never got a credit card. I never took out a loan. So I had to survive and work. And so you have to be scrappy. You have to do things you don't want to do sometimes. So that's what gave me the strength, and just knowing I didn't have a choice. Remember one time I got laid off. So then I'm with this temp agency going, and I'm like, I have to go. I don't want to go do this, but you have to go. So I guess that kind of made me scrappy-ish.
Right.
So.
Where along in the process of because you talked about it a little bit, but I'm interested in where along the line do you feel that, okay, you got into this, you're hanging out with what did you call the Libertarian Party LP something?
Right.
Yeah.
Colorado.
Okay. Do you feel maybe the scrappiness does it, but there's an element of like, so for me, as an example, I've said too many foul words, I think, for me to be able to run for office. You're leaning into it, right? As far as honesty, what has shaped your idea of what your public persona is? Or do you feel like there is none?
Like
Meaning they're
different
the
from
same
me. Like
thing.
I'm just the same.
Sure.
I think I am just the same. Like even having the moniker and stuff and like kind of trying to be anonymous for a while, which I wasn't because I posted my face eventually, didn't really matter. So no one really knew my name till I ran for office and that guy doxed me, by the way. It was funny. But so I don't know. I think it is the same. I think that I am super honest and I have put everything out there. I have put lewd pictures on the internet since 2007. There's no going back on that. Like everything's there. I don't have a criminal history. I don't there's things that are like, I think more serious that I haven't done. So yeah, I have to just lean into it. I mean, like, I don't know if you know what about the sparkler incident, but like, there's a lot of stuff in my past.
I have heard, but I
Yeah.
have not found it yet, unfortunately.
I mean, there's people who like screenshotted it and keep posting it, whatever. I'm like, guys, like, can we just not post it for a little bit? But
Right.
and I was banned on Twitter. My Forest Mommy account was banned for over a year because I put it's a beautiful artistic nude. I put that in the profile pic, and then I got banned, and then they never let me back on for a while. So then they just did. It was weird, but
because it was in the profile pic. Because I've
yeah,
seen
you
people
can't have.
fisting
Yeah, oh
themselves
yeah,
on
you can do
Twitter.
whatever you want on the
Okay.
timeline,
Right.
but and I kind of got the rules even then and now, but like you can't have anything in the profile picture or the header. And I'm like, yeah, it would be all dick pics in the profile because that's how men are. Bless them all.
Yeah.
But like, it would be dick pic, dick pic, dick pic. So,
But they would be, let's be honest, they would be 6 or 5 or 4 inches tops. Let's be real, right?
yeah, they wouldn't be hiding that. They'd be totally confident and everything.
This is one of the things I've been thinking about my fucking show. Because I've had so many goddamn political conversations, the last year, especially year and a half. It's been a long time since I've had somebody who's a dirtbag. And I mean that with love. And, I did have Elizabeth Duffy, Elizabeth Duffy, libertarian comedian and OnlyFans girl.
Sounds familiar.
She's
Is she on
badass.
Twitter? I might be following her or something.
Yeah, I'll send you her account. But yeah, I had her on a couple months ago, and now we're friends. And this idea of, it's a similar thing to what we were talking about earlier. Someone comes in, oh my God, she's saying the thing I want her to say. Yay. Wait a second, she did something that I don't want her to do that doesn't affect my life fucking at all. Let me get mad at her because she's not a perfect. You shouldn't. I don't know. I think if we don't learn the intellectual and spiritual and mental and emotional lesson of 2020, we're going to keep repeating this fucking process over again.
Yeah, and I think I was going to bring up earlier too about what's happening out here with the GOP. I don't know if you saw it. Basically, like when I started running, a bunch of them reached out to me and they wanted to help me. They're not running anyone against me. And like a couple of them, I'm like, well, I'm crazy online. And they're like, yeah, we know, we follow you. So like we're kind of moving, like for some of them are realizing, okay, that stuff's stupid. And the party politics is stupid too. But we made this whole agreement where, we're gonna coordinate with them at certain level races and say, hey, who's the best candidate we can run? No, one of your people, one of our people, who's going to be truly for liberty. And we have this talk about how pledges are bad, but there is a pledge for that. But it's mainly like, I'm not gonna, I'll vote against the government, basically. So like it's that kind of stuff.
Big tent. It's really a big tent.
It's been like cultural. There definitely has been this cultural shift. Like I did this speech at this political event in January, and right after these ladies came up to me who looked like they'd be like GOP ladies, right? And they're like, we love you, and we're so sick of the parties and the sides, and we just want to know like who's the best. And so I'm like, there is this really cool political shift going on here where people are waking up. And like I've gone to some of their houses and done talks with GOP little groups and stuff, and they're like, because my hardest thing too is I thought I was going to get through is the police reform and trying to end qualified immunity and things like that. But even next, we had a crazy situation out here. I don't know if you heard of Johnny Hurley, but he was a good guy with a gun, took out a bad guy, and then the cops showed up and took him out. Short story, but like he was a really good dude with like We Are Change, and he just was a good dude. But so the GOP and people see that out here. They're like, okay, yeah, now they're going to pay out of their tax money this huge lawsuit that the families should be getting, you know. So there's ways to get through to them, like through fiscal. I'm like, okay, we're gonna get the cop stuff is through fiscal because we don't need to be paying more of these bad cops settlements and stuff. So yeah, there really is a cool shift out here. I think even maybe the left too. I don't know. They might be coming around. We'll see.
Yes, except they have to do it quietly. I can't tell you how many messages. Keep adjusting your shirt. I'm just trying to get a glimpse.
I can't tell. It was uneven. It was bugging me.
Girl, this is going to be on YouTube. You know what I'm saying?
It's been worse than me on YouTube. It's all good.
Yeah, I had one. I was just talking about this the other day. I missed the old days of my show because I would have way too many. You know, I had a one girl gave me her panties after the show. It was wonderful. Shout out to, I think it was episode 50. God, I'm old. So here's that thing too. Well, what direction do I want to go? Yeah, let me go this way. I think in actual practice, conservatives these days, and I'm talking 2022, 2023, especially pandemic shit, especially vaccine shit, conservatives are actually more libertarian than they would like to lead on to themselves, right? And to each other. Because they're like, yeah, you know, I don't care. I can't say how many, you know, most conservatives I follow. Sure, there's exceptions. Most conservatives I follow are like, I don't give a fuck about gay people. Do your thing, dude. You know, I disagree with, even if they're like, you know, it's a sin, you know, you're going to go to hell, blah, 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 Jesus. They still are minding their own fucking business about it. They're like, just leave the fucking kids alone, right? But there's something in current day liberalism that makes the centrist liberal have to bend to the will of the extreme. There is nothing in modern day conservatism that makes me bend to the will of the extreme right. There just isn't. Any, you know, far right, you know, actual racist, which by the way, there's like 5 of those cocksuckers. So it's not that big a goddamn deal. Any actual racist is not going to want me anyway, because I'm a fucking mixed breed. Right? Any actual racist says some shit, I'm like, oh, fuck off, motherfucker. Like it doesn't in current day liberalism or leftism or whatever you want to call it, you're not listening enough. You're not now, even though you've been an ally, you still need to cower and you still need to kowtow and you still need to fucking, you know, circumcise yourself. You know, if you even gender your kids, it's apparently the fucking, so bully, like we were talking about.
Yeah, because these people, I mean, the reason they bend is because they have no self-confidence, or they're not like, there's just nothing to them. They're empty. It's like, you can't do that. People have to start being brave. Like, just stop bending. It's so weird. Yeah, I saw that so much. I saw people who I would do, because I've lived a long life. I've done a lot of fun things. There's people who like would say I would house party with a lot, that would joke about spreading strep at a house party. And then all of a sudden they're like, you're leaving your house and there's COVID and blah. And I was like, wait a minute. How did you flip like that? Like, how did I, when I see you doing things over there, you went from that to like, you know, and it's weird. They do bend that. They think they have to bend this knee. And it's like, it's absurd to me too, because it's just annoying, because then we're the ones out here getting our asses beat and like putting targets on our backs. But oh well.
Yeah, I'd still rather, I mean, it's easy to say, but I can sleep at night. I'm fucking happy with my shit.
I've never done any of my weird shit around kids, so you know, or none of my tit pictures raise taxes, so you know.
Interesting. Wait, which one are you talking about now? Which one raised taxes? Oh, you're just talking about.
I'm just saying, like, anything bad I've done is nothing compared to what the government's done. So
right. And by the way, conservatives, let's be real. A lot of you have seen the pictures anyway. Let's not, you know what I'm saying? Like you can talk all kinds of mad shit about like, well, it's not right and it's not right. Let's look at your internet history, bitch. All right. Let's be fucking real.
Well, I'm looking it up because it's bad and I need to talk about how bad it is and moralize on it.
Yeah. What are you fucking Pete Townsend? Right. Can we also talk about another cultural shift? And this is something libertarians are very comfortable with. And certainly, obviously, liberals, even though they need comps to enforce the Marxism, but that's another date. Conservatives, I feel, and most of them are, we got confused. I think if you're a conservative and you're listening to me right now, it's time for you to be anti-cop. Sorry. Oops. It's time for you to be just a little anti-cop, not full on ACAB. That's not what I'm saying. If you don't feel comfortable with that, a lot of us know cops. I know cops. I know servicemen. That's a completely different thing individually. And you can you can detract or delineate between the individual and the group. But I think the pandemic opened motherfuckers' eyes because they 1 second they're back in the blue, right? And then 2 seconds later, oh, now the cop is showing up at my door because I let people in who didn't have a vaccine card, right? So, yeah, I'd like to hear your thoughts on that delineation, and if what work you feel people could look at or numbers or whatever to help them make that intellectual hop.
No, I mean, I totally agree. I mean, most people went along with the COVID stuff because they were worried about cops. I mean, really, in the end of the day, when you're worried about any rule or law or whatever, because you're worried about the cops showing up and enforcing it, right?
Right.
Yeah, so that did wake them up. And then, I don't know, that was a weird time because then you had George Floyd, and then they had the riots, and then everybody wants law and orders after the riots, right? Because everyone, they know what they're doing with all this stuff. But I guess, like I said before, just the best way to get through to them is, hey, we just paid out, $3 million in lawsuits from taxpayers because of this guy doing something stupid from the hire. He should have never been hired, like in Arvada too. They were like fighting wearing body cameras for a while. I was like, why would you fight to wear a body camera? Like, what? Just wear it.
Fight to wear or fighting wearing it?
They didn't want to wear them.
Okay.
They were like one of the last forces to wear them for a while. So it was like, why would you want to do that? But I think the fiscal thing is the best, and just, I don't know.
Because you feel like it's something that that both sides can kind of agree on.
Yeah, I mean, it's taxpayer money, it's, yeah, that, and I guess trying to make them feel that, like, how doctors have to carry malpractice insurance. Like, why can't we have cops carry like a mal cop insurance, like things like that. That might get them through. But I've just been thankful that, like, even at some of the meetings I've gone to, like, people. So I'm really big on this guy, Johnny Hurley, who got shot. I'm friends with his friends and his sister now too. Cause I'm like, I put it on my yard signs. I put his name on my yard signs. I'm like, this is the hero with a gun, I guess then that kind of can feed into getting people into the 2A because I want to make it a 2A sanctuary city. So I don't know. I don't even know where I'm going with that anymore. Sorry. That was like
No. That's all right. You're on the right show.
Yeah.
I rant into oblivion at least 4 times on each episode. Can you go into the story a little bit more? So what exactly happened? There was a bad guy with a gun.
Yeah. So it was June 2021. And it's a big sprawling suburb, but there's like an old town area, kind of classic looking. And some crazy dude showed up with all loaded, all kitted out and stuff. Came around a corner and there was a cop walking, and he shot a cop, killed the cop. Very sad. Officer Beasley got killed. Well, across the street there was this Army surplus store, and that's where Johnny Hurley was. So he heard the shots, and he's he's concealed carry, law-abiding citizen, ran out in his t-shirt and Vans, ran out, took cover, took down the bad guy before anyone else got shot. But what happened is, then once the bad guy was down, Johnny went over to like disarm that guy's rifles, and Johnny had like just a pistol. But when he was like unloading it or whatever, the cop showed up and didn't say freeze, didn't say anything. He just shot Johnny in his back because they thought he could have. I mean, I understand how they thought he could have been the killer, but like he wasn't pointing a gun at anyone. Like, couldn't we have caught? And like in the video, he sits there for like 11 seconds in the video. So anyways, they tried to make it hush hush, obviously, because the cop, and this was, after all the George Floyd stuff, here was a cop killed somebody, a good guy, and they tried to hush hush, and then they didn't release. They had so many videos and everything because it was just where it was, and they didn't release anything till, remember, it was during the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, so like months later, because they wanted it kind of quiet, that they weren't going to press charges against the officer. The officer still has his job, and blah blah blah. And they released everything and show it was just cut and dry, a very bad decision, whether you like think it's justified or not because it's a cop. But so anyways, so then they like, even people in the state don't even know about it that much. In Colorado, the other day I actually bullied. So my governor follows me, and I bully him all the time.
Yay.
And so I went and looked up, and we've been bullying him because he says he's libertarian, and we're like, no, you're not. We always bully him about that. And so
Does he
I
wear
went.
a Ukraine pin?
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely like, oh, he's just the worst. He's a commie. So I looked up how many times he said George Floyd on Twitter, and then I looked up how many times he said Johnny Hurley's name. He never once said Johnny Hurley's name. So then I posted about it. I'm like, oh yeah. I remember I thought about it at night, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get this motherfucker. And I do it. And then so some of Johnny's friends were like, yeah, he was at the funeral, blah blah. And then all of a sudden the governor's like, Johnny Hurley was a hero, and he like responded to me, and we were all like, no, like we did that thing.
Yeah.
And like all his friends who even aren't on Twitter saw it and stuff, and they're like, what? No, it's like, yeah, I got him to say his name. So so that's a big thing to me, because he was a hero. It was quieted. And that's like, I feel like that's the spirit of the city and the state, like to be a prepared person. Not that everyone has to carry or anything, but like there's plenty of good guys with the guns, and they never go off those stories. They like, if that had turned into a big mass killing down there, would have been all over the news, right? But because it was a good guy with a gun, it was barely on any news. So that's
can I also push this point too? Because you it seems like you're dare I say, a good girl. You're comfortable in your femininity, right? And there's this idea amongst a lot of the anti-feminist movement, which, don't get me wrong, I'm a part of, card carrying member. But there's this idea amongst like, oh, but feminists won't let you, right? You're going to face consequences, and see what happens when a good guy with a gun does, or when who's that dude who just got arrested? Actually, there were two in New York who stopped people from attacking
on the rail, or
right on the subway.
Yeah.
There's this idea of like, well, I wouldn't do anything. Here's the thing, boys, if you're listening to me right now, tough shit. You still have to be a man, even if they're going to persecute you anyway. Boys, listen, tough fucking shit. Yeah, it's unfair. Are we working on that? Absolutely. But in the interim, people are going to be fucking hurt or killed unless you step up and be a man. So suck it the fuck up, boys. I'm just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, especially because the left doesn't want any of us women carrying. We're supposed to just let the rape happen, okay? Because he could use a gun against you. And I'm like, you idiot, do you not understand? At that point, I don't care. I'm going to at least get my shot in, right? Like,
right. I saw some dumb white bitch. Because it really is. It's not black girls who don't want guns. Are you out of your fucking mind? They grew up in the fucking videos like, yeah, they grew up in the fucking ghetto around dangerous people. I've talked to so many black people who are like, no, I'm fucking strapped. Like I'm fucking did it. Black people like guns, bruh. In fact, the highest concentration of black people I've seen in Austin, because it's a white as fuck city, is at the gun range. Anyway, but what was I going to say? I'm just saying, like, I saw some dumb white bitch. Yeah. That could be, honestly, like the crumbs that get me back to pretty much any story on CONSERVATISH. Make sure you subscribe and share, everybody. But I was listening to some clip where this girl was on, I think it was the Whatever podcast. And she was saying, well, I would prefer that my man protect me with his hands instead of a gun in a home invasion. In a home invasion. It's almost like, remember during Katrina when Celine Dion was on, I think it was Larry King, and she was like, just let them have the kayak, just let them steal. They've never seen a TV before. That it's the high-minded shit fuck white liberal who thinks that black people are just like living in a war zone and they can't. And so, just let this person take from us. Here's the thing, kids. When you are being robbed in your house, you don't get to have a say about what happens. So if you get ribbity raped, that's up to them. It's not like, I guess they just want this TV and then I'll buy a new TV because my daddy bought me insurance for it. No, there's consequences to your actions. And that's one of them. That's a very high potential.
If they have got broken, if they've done where they've broken into your house, that could escalate to anything very quickly at that point. So yeah, for this any of them to say that, like, it's just gross. I went and spoke against the bill this last year, and I slipped. I did this really. It was pretty quick. It was an AR ban. They tried to do an AR ban out here. So like 500 of us showed up to speak against it, and it
In
didn't pass.
Colorado?
Yeah, they passed other gun. It's wild this year, but enough of us are still here and fighting. So I'm like, that's good. But at the end of my speech, I'm like, anybody who wants to tell me how I can defend myself, you are my predator. Like only a predator would try to limit how I can defend myself. So there's like no holds bar against it. It's like you are literally a predator and I have to protect myself from you. So felt good. That's the best part. Like if people aren't politically involved, they totally get it. But like going to this, like during the legislative sessions, going down there and looking them in their eyes, and they're all unimpressive people, like these journalists, as if they're unimpressive people, just like looking them in their eyes and being like, yeah, I think this law protects us from you, or just like totally like go off on them. It's just, it was the best therapy I could have never paid for. It was just like, that's what kind of what made me be like, I want more. It's like a high I'm chasing now.
And it would be nice to have someone in who is honest about the fact that she don't want to fucking be here, right? I'm just doing this to try to work for y'all. Like, here's the thing about a government position. I'm your fucking employee.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that's
And I
what a
want to
government.
really push that and make it so it's a cult. Like, I'm so surprised there isn't more people running, especially after everything that's happened. But they make it so hard and make it like so, and so I'm like, maybe if I can just get the cultural thing, we get a new person in every term it's someone like me and like, the thing is, they're like, well, you don't know that much about how government works. I'm like, yeah, that's who you want going in so they can, because if you have people who are only know how it works, they've been corrupting it. They know exactly how to corrupt it. And they know exactly, you want people to get in fresh to like peel away the layers and look at everything, who don't know what's going on.
Right. Who still have a connection to people. I keep talking about this. Who's an example? Robert De Niro. Robert De Niro is a New York boy, right? No self-respecting New York boy would be liberal, unless, how did he transition from being a New York boy from fucking Tribeca or wherever the fuck he's from, Southern Manhattan? How did he transition from that into the Trump derangement syndrome boy that we see today? A lot of money and a lot of sycophants for 50 fucking years. That's what so you take a New York boy who has a soul and you add money and yes men and all that and power, and it's power corrupts. And so he turns coat. That's what it is. And he thinks that's why Joni Mitchell was and Neil Young were all like, yeah, pro censorship, even though they were hippies. You add money and you add power, and that's what you get. So having somebody who hasn't been corrupted by the money and power, why wouldn't it be a net positive?
Yep. And just like trying to like get it through to people that you have the right and the left people, and like, but I really am like, I want to protect you from the government. Like I want to be the barrier in there. But they're not, because they did some stupid stuff. The guy I'm running against, they like push new taxes through and stuff. So that's like another reason I'm going to win, because everyone tried to recall him once already. So it's like, yeah. And I'm like, people didn't know. They weren't paying attention, blah, 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 So yeah, I want to bring it to the people. We have the ones now, they have like little, they're just so unimpressive. And they're like, yeah, we have a coffee meet and greet. And I'm just like, I'm like, oh God, like they're just, not that you have to be charismatic, but you have to like connect with people to some extent, and they're just like,
so. Right. And they're constantly afraid of, this is what insecurity does, is it makes people be a bully, right? It makes people arrogant. I know the times I've been the most arrogant is when I've been insecure, right? It's this idea of like, okay, I'm going to push this person down. So rather than say, and I think everybody, all you conservatives, cover your fucking ears. I think Trump is a big fucking example of this. If Trump just said, you know what, guys, I fucked up. During the pandemic, man, I fucked up. They caught me, man. They caught me slipping with pandemic, and I enacted a bunch of big government policies, and I said, let's shut it down. I mean, I wanted only to do 2 weeks, but they kept pushing. They kept waving these statistics in my eyes, and I got blinded and I got caught slipping. I'm sorry for pushing the vaccine. I'm sorry. If he just came out and fucking said that, he'd have my vote. Yeah. I'm not saying he doesn't have my vote now, but if he showed a little bit of non-Trumpness, because I know he's never been a guy who can say he's wrong. If he just showed a little bit of non-Trumpness and just said, I fucked up, he'd have my vote.
Yeah, but then you have all these people running cover for him. I've heard so many excuses. He got tricked. He got this, and I'm like, okay, that doesn't make it better. They're making it worse. Like, why? And why can't he just come out and say that himself then, or like apologize? But none of them have apologized. So
No,
and no,
none of
I'm
them
not
will.
shutting up about it either, man. That's like
Right.
they all think they're moving on. I'm like, oh, I still have a voice for now, so y'all can listen to me.
Right. Well, let's start wrapping up here in a little bit. But what are the exact policies? I know it's kind of fucking pedantic, and obviously we've talked about it, several of them during the show. But what are them? Which ones are specifically are you focused on that are important to our Arvada?
Yeah. So the biggest one is they push through this. It's a big sprawling suburb. Anyone could use whatever trash service you want. Well, the city right before 2020 and the guy I'm running against, a couple other people that were on, were like, we want to do a citywide trash service, which that makes sense in some areas, but not here, right? And then they were like, he basically said people shouldn't vote on it either. So they just pushed it through. So then people were like, then people got uproar, tried to recall him. So basically, we're being taking our choice away and giving the preference to this one company run through the city, right? So they said, okay, you can opt out. You can opt out and still use who you want, but then you still have to pay a fee. So even if you opt out, now there's this new trash fee everybody has to pay on top of your trash too. So they're trying to get you to, and then they're raising their prices already too. So anyways, I want to get rid of that. And there's the one GOP rabble rouser who's like my best friend now. He's like, we're going to get, like, he's all pumped about that. So that's fun. So we're going to get that one.
Question. What would you replace it with?
We're just going to get rid of it because the people didn't vote on it. And it's like, it's nothing. Where's that money even going? Where did it come from? Like, why the people? So just to get rid of it, I can get everyone to pay like $8 less on their little bill on their, I think it comes on like the sewer bill or whatever. It's just, so nothing. The tax shouldn't be there. And if the city still wants to run a service, fine, but there should be no opt-out fee for everybody else. So get rid of that. There's a lot of development issues and stuff because there's still a lot of building going on and roads. Oh my gosh, the roads are going to be huge. They've been working on these huge road projects that have been going bad. And so that's going to be a big thing, and budgets and the police stuff. And yeah, there's like, it's just the specific things will be helping more businesses come and making it easier for business. And I want to make it so the city of Arvada actually did decent during COVID, but like, I would love to make like a sanctuary city from the county health department. So just in case any crap starts again, no, you won't come do this and that. So that would be kind of cool to do.
But now, obviously, that's very anti-vax of you. But I would also like to point to anybody who is unsure about that to just look at their guts. Look around you. Look around you, because is it working out the way you've been doing it? Right? Even if the government has good intentions, they don't. Even if the government has good intentions, they're doing a piss poor fucking job at every single thing they touch. If they were an employee, which they are, or they should be, you would have fired them a long time ago. So let's try a different solution. Instead of paying the government to pay the construction workers, why don't we pay the construction workers just that way? Like, why don't we try that for the roads, right? Why don't we hire, and then you have fucking 2 years to get this goddamn highway done instead of a blank check with my fucking cash, because there's so many layers in between. Like, let's try something different. Let's try something different.
Be cool.
It would be real cool. What website are you at, my dear?
So just jessicafenske.com. So it's Jessica and then F as in Frank, ENSKE.com. I've got some of my speeches up on there and some other stuff. That pledge is up there. So yeah.
And where else can people find you?
Best spot's Forest Mommy on Twitter. I have a link tree that's like /Forest Mommy with other stuff, but I'm pretty much only on Twitter. I have an Instagram, which is Forest Mommy Co, but that was always like my backup for when I got banned on Twitter. And so I'm not always on it. I'm on Twitter the most.
Okay. I think I followed you on Instagram yesterday or the day before. Yeah, I think you might have been. I don't know. I didn't see a co, but that's all right. I'll look for it.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me, Forest
Thank you
Mommy.
for having me. It was a great talk.
Yeah, I'm the greatest show of all time. Everywhere you're listening, everybody, make sure you subscribe, share, rate, and review. Otherwise, the commies win. And I love you all very much. Oh, find me on Instagram at Peter_Feliciano. And I'll go ahead and end the recording. Bye, everybody.